Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. Justice Minister Ronald Lamola says despite his party's failure to amend Section 25 of the Constitution, government was still committed to ensuring that landless citizens become landowners. The change to the Bill of Rights is so serious that the Constitution imposes a high threshold of 67% of MPs voting in support of the amendment bill. Without the joint numbers of the EFF and ANC, the constitutional threshold of a two-thirds majority would never be met past the Land Expropriation Bill for zero compensation. Someone who has often had a lot to contribute on the land question is BLF President Andile Mgnxitama. He joins us now to weigh in on the failure to pass the Land Expropriation Bill. Very good morning to you. Thank you so much for your time. Was this outcome expected?
Yes, it was expected. The political parties in Parliament have been playing political football with the land question for far too long. We said this 3 years ago when first Parliament passed the resolution for land expropriation without compensation. We said it will not happen. And indeed, what happened is a vindication of our position. And our position comes from understanding the three main political parties that are led ideologically by the Democratic Alliance. ANC and the EFF are led by the Democratic Alliance ideologically. And the Democratic Alliance represent the interests of land thieves, those who have stolen our land. And therefore, we're not surprised to see the bill itself is very weak, of course. The bill itself, even if it passed, it would not have contributed to the resolution of the land question. But what symbolically you saw is EFF voting with the DA, Freedom Front Plus, the parties that hold our land, showing therefore that indeed Parliament is not serious about redistributing land to black people in this country. The main political parties are not attuned to addressing the land question in South Africa.
Mr. Mgnxitama, just clarify this for me. So you mentioned that the bill is not strong, as you say. It's not a strong enough case. But you then go and say that the EFF and the ANC voted, the EFF and the DA voted together, including ATM, IFP, ACDP, the Good Party, and. So which one is it? Did they not vote against the bill that, as Malema says, would set back black people's struggle for land repossession?
Well, here's the thing. All this time, the EFF has been participating in the processes in Parliament around this bill. And it has never raised the objections that it suddenly found to raise at the last moment. This bill, for a very long time, it has been watered down version. The sellout has happened in the committees, and this was not raised in any sharp manner. And so it is very surprising that at the last moment, the EFF now jumps and says, they're not going to vote. Let me just clarify another point. The idea of nil compensation and expropriating certain pieces of land which are unproductive is an EFF position, actually. When Malema in 2015 went to PAL to speak to land thieves there, he told them that EFF does not want to expropriate productive land. So the very idea of this bill is the idea of EFF itself. So the EFF and the ANC ideologically in one camp when it comes to the land question. But they are playing a political game of difference when it comes to the final point, to play a spectacle of difference when in fact they are the same. So we must stop this thing of listening to what EFF is saying. We must check what it does. It has given political power in the local municipalities to the political parties of land thieves. It is exactly in the same side. The ANC is a party of cowards. It has failed to address this issue. Thabo Mbeki had 2/3 majority. He did not need any political party to assist the ANC to amend the constitution to bring about land redistribution. He did not do so. So the ANC is not attuned to addressing the land question. Neither is the EFF, who believes in the same freedom charter, which has given our land to land thieves, because the freedom charter says South Africa belongs to all those who live in it, both black and white. And in 1955, when the land was in the hands of settlers, so they're ideologically in sync with the settler position of the Democratic Alliance, which is their ideological leaders.
We know that the ANC has since spoken, and in fact, the Justice Minister was saying that changing the Constitution was just one instrument that they could have, that they used, and now the matter's ended, and now they're going to be moving to simply allowing the majority to pass the laws that will allow for the expropriation without compensation. And legal experts have also said that land seizures were already permissible. With that in mind, and those options on the table, what's your take on what should exactly be done to ensure this goal is reached and that it benefits the very people? I mean, you've criticized the ANC, you've criticized the EFF. How would the BLF approach this?
We went to Parliament and we spoke to the parliamentarians, and we explained that the South African Constitution as it stands does not allow for massive redistribution of land. It doesn't. Our Constitution as it stands, it says the land must be bought from those. In Section 25 of the Constitution, it's called the Property Clause. It's a section that says you have to buy land. And then, of course, it promises land distribution, but ultimately you have to buy land from land thieves. So what needs to happen is changing the Constitution. There is no way that black people are going to get land in this country without changing that Constitution. And in the meantime, in the interim, we are saying to black people, take the land, occupy the land. The land belongs to you. And this is what Black First Land First is going to do. And you are not going to occupy marginalized land. As we speak right now, there's 50 High Court interdicts against Black First Land First by Johan Rupert, because we want to take the most fertile land. We're not talking like EFF, unproductive land, abandoned land, and so on. We're talking about productive land, which is in the hands of land thieves, that must be taken to its rightful owners, which is the black majority. We have to undertake actions outside of the law, because the law does not allow us to take the land. Because parliamentarians are all in the pocket of same land. If you'll
allow me, you say that you're going to be calling for people to take the land and occupy the land. Are you then to be perceived as calling for criminality? I mean, that is criminal. We can't have people going out and just snatching land because there are certain processes that need to take place. I mean, surely that will result in chaos.
If I steal your car, and you find me driving it in the street, and you take it back, what do you call that? You call it redress. The land was stolen from black people, and black people must take back that which belongs to them. You can't call that criminality. But
with all due respect, Mr. Mgnxitama, it's not that simple. I mean, I understand the example you're trying to make, but surely you can't just take the most fertile land that currently is being used for productive measures, especially if you don't have the means and skills to work that land.
Well, what you don't know in South Africa is that the people who are producing on farms is black people. Black people are farm workers, and they're the ones who are working the land. So if I take it back to you, your objection is as simply like saying, if I steal your car and I put it into business, all of a sudden you can't take it back because I am using it productively. It cannot be. We have to go back to redressing the first sin, which is land dispossession. That is the major criminal activity that happened in this country. And when we say we're taking back the land, we are simply redressing a historical sin and a crime. As we speak, 87% of the land is in the hands of less than 5,000 big commercial agricultural entities. They can't even fill one stadium, the people who hold the land in the country. And they have harmed the land, and the agricultural sector is one of the most mismanaged. You know, as we speak, it hires less than 400,000 people when it could be hiring millions of people and can address food security. We have to transform radically the agricultural sector, and that can be done only by bringing massive numbers of black people into becoming owners of land and continue to produce the food that we have. South Africa today, the food we eat, the milk you get in your fridge, come from black people who wake up very early and don't get paid serious money. I mean, farm workers are some of the most underpaid people, most underfed people, but they're the ones who are bringing food on our tables. Those are the farmers.
Why not allow the constitutional processes to take their position and ensure that transition is smooth and that there's a lot of preparation? I mean, there's a difference between being a farm worker and a farm manager, because then that will result in failures, because you may farm the land but not have the skill set to manage the business, because you speak about the failures in agriculture, but surely it can't be a win-win situation when farms are snatched or you know, land that is fertile is snatched without a proper plan in place. Surely it wouldn't hurt to allow the constitutional processes to take their place so that the benefit is seen and becomes a generational benefit, so that it's not just a farm that's snatched and then nothing happens afterwards.
The land was snatched. Right? The land was snatched from us, and it can only be returned by, if I will use your term, snatching it back. There is no other way. The constitutional process, as 27 years later, it is not delivered any land. I mean, we're talking about 8% of the land being bought back for over 50 billion rand from people who just came here and took our land. It is a sin. It is cowardice that we sustain that process. The land must be given to its rightful owners. And of course, parliamentarians, because they're in the pockets of land thieves, have failed to do so. So it is up to the people to stand up and take back the land. As I say to you, the people who feed us, the people who run the agricultural sector, are black people who are slaves on farms. Those people must simply take over and then continue to produce the food that comes to the market.
Mr. Mgnxitama,
that's what we must do to empower our people.
We have run out of time. Thank you so much for your views this morning. We really do appreciate you taking time out to talk to us. That's the BLF President, Andile Mgnxitama. And that also brings us to the end of, well, that interview, of course, but